Okay, so the point of this video then is primarily, or was primarily, gonna be to do a bunch of microphone tests with the Yi 4K Plus Action Cam. I want to say primarily what it is, I've just bought a Yi system based on the fact that they do generate a really good picture, but unfortunately I've run into a lot of problems with the audio and quite specifically using external microphones. So for the purposes of this particular test and this video, what I'm going to be doing is using a GoPro Hero 5 Black to compare against with various microphones. Now within the test I'm going to be using a Sennheiser ME66, an ALAV lavalier, a very cheap £1 lavalier, and a couple of other microphone options which are actual builds that I make myself. Okay, so yeah, without further ado, I shall get into the testing and then I'll come back at the end for an explanation and a summary. So this is the GoPro and the ME66 shotgun microphone by Sennheiser, and what it is, just for the purposes of this test and being outdoors because there's a little bit of wind, I'm going to use this Movo foam filter on this and the other shotgun styled microphone that I'm going to be using. Okay, so this should be enough of an example for us to hear exactly how the GoPro Hero 5 sounds with a Sennheiser ME66 shotgun microphone. So now I'm onto the Yi with the Sennheiser ME66 shotgun microphone, and what it is, this take should give us a really good idea as to how this microphone sounds compared to the previous take on the GoPro. So once again, this is the Yi with the Sennheiser ME66 shotgun microphone. Okay, so back onto the GoPro again, and this time I'm using one of the microphones that I modify. And basically what this is, it's a cheap Chinese so-called shotgun microphone, and what I do, I take the capsules out and I replace them with a Primo EM172 omnidirectional electric condenser capsule. So basically it just makes a way much better microphone, and just out of interest, you can build one of these for less than £30. Okay, so once again, this is the GoPro with the Primo EM172 shotgun styled microphone. So this is the Yi with the Primo EM172 shotgun styled microphone. And when I say shotgun styled, what I mean by that is the microphone body itself, or the original configuration, isn't a shotgun. It's basically just like a pencil microphone with capsules placed through it. And what it is, at the moment, the Primo is actually placed at the end of the body. So I say shotgun styled only because it looks like a shotgun, but really it's more like a pencil microphone. I'm also going to be doing a build on this particular microphone as well. So call back in the future if you're interested in the way that this has sounded either on the Yi or on the previous take with the GoPro. Okay, so this should be enough of a take for us to compare how this microphone sounds between the Yi and the GoPro. GoPro again, and this time I'm on a cheap £1 lavalier microphone. Now what it is, this lav comes with a TRRS connector on the end, which is used for, say, smartphones and devices that require that connector. So all I do, I just chop the end off and I put a TRS connector on the end and then just kind of normalize or bridge the ends. And then what that means is I can plug it into the likes of a GoPro or a camcorder or any other device that'll accept that kind of input and also will supply power, which the GoPro does. Okay, so once again, this is the cheap £1 lavalier microphone on the GoPro. This is now the Yi with the cheap £1 lavalier microphone. So this should give us a really good idea as to how this sounds compared to the previous take with the GoPro using the cheap £1 lav microphone. Now I'd like to say just dead quickly as well, if you can pick up one of these Yis as cheaply as I've picked it up, and you can pick up cheap microphones like this as long as you like the sound of them, then you are actually making yourself a really decent system for like not much money. Anyway, that's just a personal side note to the actual test. Okay, so once again, this is the Yi with the £1 lavalier microphone. So back to the GoPro again, and this time I'm on another lavalier, but in this instance I'm using the Aperture ALAV lavalier microphone, and the setup for this is that the microphone is using its own power supply to be plugged into the GoPro. So once again, this is the Aperture ALAV lavalier microphone being self-powered, plugged direct into the GoPro. So this is now the Yi with Aperture's ALAV lavalier microphone, and this take should give us a really good idea as to how this sounds compared to the previous take on the GoPro. So once again, this is the Yi with Aperture's ALAV lavalier microphone, and it's being powered by its own power supply. Back to the GoPro again, and this time what I'm using here is another one of my modified microphones. And what this one is, it's the capsule from the cheap £1 lav, but I set it inside a very cheap handheld microphone. And basically what it's for is for actually doing handheld mic work, and it's great at that. But because these capsules are so sensitive, what I find is that it has like two purposes, and the second one is I can actually clip it on top of the camera and use it hands-free as well, because the microphone is that, you know, sensitive. So like I say, this is the cheap £1 lavalier capsule inside a handheld mic, and it's mounted on top of the GoPro. So this is now the Yi with the handheld microphone with the £1 lavalier capsule built inside of it. And basically what it is, I'm just doing the exact same thing. It's camera mounted just as it was with the GoPro. And like I said, with the GoPro take as well, because this capsule is so sensitive, it may well work sitting on the Yi itself, and it could be a really good option for hands-free vlogging or any kind of situation where you want to better the Yi's internal microphone but you don't want to handhold a mic. Okay, so once again, this is the Yi with the handheld microphone with the £1 capsule built inside it, but actually camera mounted. And just before I get on with the count and the silence noise tests, what I'm going to do is give two quick examples of the microphones inside the cameras. So right now I'm on the GoPro and the microphone is set to just stereo, so I haven't got wind cancellation or anything like that. And what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to do count and silence with the internal microphones, because they really are not the best mics in the world. So once again, this is the internal microphone on the GoPro, just to give us an idea of how this sounds. Alright, so just to conclude the dialogue portion of the test, I'm back onto the Yi with its internal microphones. So just like with the GoPro, this is just going to give us a really rough idea of like how its internal mics sound. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to the count tests, and then after that the silence, sensitivity, noise type tests, and then I'll come back with a conclusion after that as well. But immediately right now, I'm going home because it's freezing. The weather's turned really cruddy, and I can't even pick me mics or me bag up because my hands are so cold. Okay, so what it is, I've cut that test short. I didn't bother going into the count test and the noise silence test, because as you'll have heard, it just wouldn't have been worth doing. I've got to say right now, if I had to sum up this whole experience in one word as far as the Yi 4K Plus with external microphones, the one word would be terrible. Now, I'm sorry if that sounds really negative, but unfortunately it is the truth. The Yi is just so incapable of recording audio, either with its internal microphone system, which I wouldn't normally be that bothered about because I wouldn't expect like great things from internal microphones on action cams. But when you go to the extent of like supplying a cable to plug into one of your own one of your own camcorders, you're kind of doing that because, like, you know, you just know why people want to do that, and that's because they want great audio. So obviously, you know, Yi have designed the 4K Plus to accept external microphones, which is something that they've not done with their previous line of action cams. And also within this test, as you heard, I did the same thing with the GoPro Hero 5. Now, the thing is, in that, you know, that setup with the GoPro, for instance, I'm not a huge fan of the way that handles audio either. But as you could hear, that was actually way better than the Yi. Now, a couple of things that I noticed there. It sounded like every single microphone that I tried on the Yi ended up sounding exactly the same, regardless of how good or bad the microphone was or the quality of the microphone. Another thing with the Yi as well, you will hear that most of the stuff sounds distorted. Well, that's distorted going into the Yi. The Yi itself is distorting that sound. And actually, the other thing is, they were all set to low. You've got two options for audio on the Yi, which is low and high. And all of them recordings, they were all set to low. So there's no way that the microphones were distorting at the capsules and also the yi was like set to low. So I mean, set to high, you wouldn't believe how bad that audio sounded. Also, there was no weight in the audio on any of the microphones. And by comparison, right now, what I'm using is my Sennheiser ME66 on a decent camcorder, which has got decent inputs and whatnot. So this will give you an idea of how the ME66 can and does sound by comparison to them other recordings. And if I have to be honest as well, the GoPro actually doesn't sound that bad. You know, the GoPro 5 and the GoPro 6, yeah, I've got to make the point here as well. That sound you heard on the GoPro 5 is exactly as it would sound on the 6. They both use the same mic adapter and they both use the same kind of internal system for audio, so they're identical. Now, my reservations with GoPros 5 and 6 in the past have just been down to like a very lack of manual control, given that you're putting this fairly big box on the side of the camera. But, you know, bottom line is they don't sound bad. I'll make that really clear right now. The GoPro 5 and 6 don't sound bad with decent microphones connected externally. My main gripe with them is the fact that, you know, you go to the extent of spending £50 for a box to add on and you don't get that much manual control. Anyway, so that bit aside with the GoPro, when it comes to the yi, what it does, it just uses a simple passive cable to go in. Now, the problems that I can envisage here are that internally the analog to digital converters within the yi are just not very good at all. And the other thing is as well, I've analysed all them recordings that I've done, and what it is on the GoPro, even with it's just its standard recording, which is interleaved with the video, that records at 128 kilobits and it's stereo. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that for a compressed audio format, especially for one which is just being used internally inside a camera. The GoPro obviously has the other option of, like, you know, higher bit rates with less processing as well, if you go into different modes for audio. Now, with the yi, it records only at 48 kilobits. Now, although the file comes out and like purports itself to be stereo, it's not a stereo recording. What the yi does, it simply takes one channel and splits it across two. So if you put a stereo microphone or a stereo source into the yi, what it does, it will not come back stereo. It'll only come back with one side of the initial stereo input. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing either, but the problem is the overall bitrate for the recording is 48 kilobits. So it's dividing two channels of audio over 48 kilobits. So you're in effect almost 3 times smaller for the bitrate than what the GoPro is for doing the exact same thing. And also, like I say, the analog to digital conversion is absolutely terrible on the yi. I don't really think I need to go any further with this, this breakdown and this summary. I'm amazingly disappointed. I actually went out and I bought the camera, I bought a couple of gimbal options, cases, lens protectors, back protectors. I mean, I really went out the whole hog, because the idea was I've already bought a URL for doing like some yi videos, because I was going to start doing a bunch of yi videos and, kind of do my old YouTube thing with the yi cameras and stuff like that. But unfortunately, at the first hurdle, it fell flat. Now, my big problem right now is that I've just bought all this stuff off Amazon. So I'm seriously hoping that when I return all this stuff, which I'm going to have to because the audio is terrible, I'm not going to get like striked from Amazon for doing such a huge return on stuff as well. So hopefully, if I can get in touch with yi before I actually return the stuff to Amazon, maybe they can make that process work out so that Amazon don't deal with that return as some kind of strike against my account, because it most certainly is not my fault. Okay, so yeah, bottom line, I'm very disappointed. And, if anybody out there is looking for an action cam to use external microphones with, you've heard what's just happened there in that test. I would strongly recommend that you do not go near the yi 4K Plus to do that particular job. I'm not going to recommend what you go and use, because there's only one camera I would use on the action cam side of stuff for external audio, but I don't use one, and I don't use it on a regular basis, and that's going to be basically Sony ones, because they have built in really good audio options. Anyway, yeah, so I need to shut up now and just kind of wrap this up and whatnot. But hopefully, anyway, this video is going to have been useful for other people as well, who maybe were thinking about making the purchase of the Ye 4K Plus specifically for the external audio options for doing proper audio. And, you know, my reservations and my whole criticism about Ye's audio system on the 4K Plus is got nothing to do with its picture. The Ye 4K Plus actually makes a fantastic picture, and in many circumstances it can beat a GoPro for its picture quality if there's certain tonalities that you like about the Ye picture profiles and stuff. Anyway, I think, yeah, I definitely got to shut up now anyway. Yeah, I'm really unhappy. Okay, so last thing for me to say is, once again, thank you for watching one of my videos. Take care and goodbye now.